everyone. Welcome to one more STEM Heroes series. And today we are here with the author of Zoe and Zion Love to Build, Vincent Flowers. Hi, Vincent. Welcome. And thank you so much for being here today. So I would like you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hey, so thanks for having me. Yes, Vincent Flowers. I am a author of Zoe and Zion Love to Build. Also, I am a technology leader in IT for Johnson & Johnson. So I've been doing that for the last 22 years. So glad to be here and glad to have an opportunity to talk about our STEM Hero series.
That is awesome. So here are my questions to you. What made you choose this career? What career, college path did you take to choose this STEM career?
So I've always had a passion for IT, for computers, right? It's funny. I was talking to my dad, and he found an old newspaper article from I think it was when I was in the fourth grade. And I was a safety patrol guard at my elementary school. So I think I was safety patrol of the week, right? And so in the article, they asked that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a computer engineer. And so I think being in computers has always been kind of my passion. I remember back in, hate to date myself, the late 80s with the Macintosh Performer, right? And so I remember it was late 80s, early 90s. And I remember being at home one day after school and just being curious about this computer, and not recommending kids do this at home, but went to the garage, got some tools, and ended up taking this computer apart just to kind of understand how it worked. And I'll never forget my dad coming home from work, and he was like, he hit the roof, right? He's like, what are you doing? And I told him I was curious about how it worked, and so I actually put it back together, and it worked just like it was never taken apart. But it was one of those things where computers have always been my passion, and so I've been doing that for a majority of my career, working in information technology.
That is awesome. So how old were you when you were taking the computers apart in the garage?
I think this was around maybe 10, 11. So early on, having that curiosity and that passion about computers, and they were kind of new on the scene, right? So we got that computer. It was donated from my grandfather, and what I remember the most about that computer, is that's how I learned how to type, right? So there was a game on there called Mario Teaches Typing. And so how you actually get your fingers on the keyboard and how you actually hit the keys, Mario does different things. That's kind of how I learned to type, but that was late, I'd say early 90s. So long time ago.
That is amazing. How did you prepare yourself to become a computer engineer?
So I think the preparation, to be honest, was from high school. Right. And so my high school, I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. So I'm originally from Ohio. My high school, I went to Toledo Central Catholic. And my high school was a place of pretty strong academics. Right. And so I think being that I already knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I ended up getting a academic scholarship to the Ohio State University. And when I got to school, I remember talking to my dean, and I was like, hey, came here to be a computer engineer. That's what I want to accomplish. How do we make this happen? And so back then in the late 90s, right, that was 97, she told me, she was like, well, you could go to school and get out in 4 years if you want to, but you may not enjoy school if you do it that way. She's like, the program is designated for a 5-year program. And so I was like, all right. So in essence, just really kind of locking in. The unfortunate reality is I didn't end up graduating with computer engineering. I ended up graduating industrial and system engineering. And so what happened there was really spending, there was one class, it was called C++. And so my first computer programming class was Java. and I loved it. It was, I mean, it was a great. I ended up getting an A in that class, so I was really excited about Java. And then when I went to take C++, back then in 1998, coding was basically in black and white, right? And so, in essence, we were coding like in Notepad. And when you code in black and white, and there's lines and lines, so a couple hundred lines of code, everything's black and white. It's very easy to miss things. Right? And so I spent about 9 hours in a computer lab one night and could not get this code to compile. And it was just, it was kicking me. And I was frustrated. And it was a semicolon I was missing in the code, so it wouldn't compile. And the reason why I mention that, and I tell it to all my mentees, is that, coding these days, it's in color.
Colorful.
Right? So, exactly. So you know immediately if your syntax is not closed, because it goes from red to green, or if it's green to red. So if it's red, you're like, oh, something's missing, right? Then in 97, 98, it was all black and white. So what I ended up doing was going and having a conversation with my dean and saying, hey, look, I don't know if I'm really built for this, but I came to school to be an engineer. So I want to understand what are the other disciplines that I can actually follow to potentially make this happen. And so we sat down and we looked at all the opportunities at Ohio State. And so industrial and system engineering is a combination of the systems and the people, right? And so being that I already had a lot of the computer engineering courses under my belt, it made it very simple to kind of just transition into industrial and system engineering.
So can you talk a little bit about your path to your career?
Yeah, so I think it was a combination of high school preparation and then going into starting in computer engineering at the Ohio State University. So I got an academic scholarship to Ohio State through the Ohio State Young Scholars Program. And so it provided me an opportunity to have a academic-based full ride to the Ohio State University. And so when I got to school, I remember having a conversation with my dean saying, hey, I came here to be a computer engineer, kind of what's the process, how do we make it work? And I would love to get it done in 4 years. He was like, you could do that if you want to. I think this conversation was Dean McGee, the late Dean McGee. So he's no longer with us. But he told me, like, you can do that, but wouldn't recommend it. Right? So you probably won't have a good time while you're here. So because most students get it done in 5. And so I remember my very first computer engineering class, it was Java, right? So coding in Java, and I had an amazing time with that Java course. It really kind of set me up to kind of go down that path. And then I remember I think it was my 3rd programming class, which was C++. And I'll never forget spending 9 hours in a computer lab struggling, right? And so back then in 1998, when you were coding in black and white. So basically you're coding in Notepad. Coding programs today, it's all in color. So instantaneously when your syntax is closed. But then everything being black and white, it was like 200 lines of code and I couldn't get it to compile. And I was spending about 9 or so hours in the computer lab, just beating myself up, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. And I was missing a semicolon, right? And so I remember while taking that class, going talking to my dean, I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I can't see myself sitting at a computer. So I feel like I actually pretty gregarious. So I like talking to people. So I was like, I can't see myself doing this, but I definitely I came to school to be an engineer. And so we sat down and kind of went through all the other engineering disciplines. And so I remember looking at mechanical, electrical, and then industrial and system engineering. And I was like, industrial and system engineering for me, I thought was a good fit because it's the people and the systems, right? And so being I had some systems background, computer courses under my belt, I went the industrial system engineering route, and that's when I graduated Ohio State with industrial systems engineering.
That is amazing. So everything started in high school. You took some classes in high school that pretty much when you were in elementary, you already knew you wanted to follow that route, right? Then high school, and then you got there. Were you able to finish in 4 years the way you wanted?
I was not.
So she was right. So for you to have a good time in school.
But once again, my dean was right, and I give her all the credit. I think too, being that I actually worked full time, so I was working 30 hours a week while I was in
That
school,
is a lot.
right? And so I think 32 was considered full time. So I was working 30 hours a week while in school, and so it would have been extremely challenging to do that, as well as try to get done in 4 years. It did take me 5. But when I graduated Ohio State, I was also part of the National Society of Black Engineers. And
That
so
is
I was part
amazing.
of NSBE. And so
You're
while at
busy.
NSBE, I think it was I was the treasurer at NSBE, and then I was the membership secretary, membership chair in NSBE as well while I was in school. And so being part of NSBE kind of got me really ingrained in engineering, and it helped me to get my full-time job where I've been for the last 22 years with Johnson & Johnson.
Wow. Congratulations. That is amazing. Besides like coding being black and white, which was a challenge during that time, what other challenges did you face and how were you able to overcome them?
I think the other challenge I faced was a lot of my peers. A lot of my peers at the time were decided to go a different path, right? And so I think for me, I had a lot of peers who stated, you know what, they came to Ohio State, computer engineering was tough, but they were really strong in math, they're really strong in science, and so they were like, you know what, I'm gonna go this route. I'm gonna go business, right? I'm gonna graduate in business. And so I think for me, one of the challenges was to try to make my own path, right? Stay in my own lane. And so I have friends that graduated from Ohio State with a math degree, and or graduated with like some sort of sciences or went into the business college. And for me, I was like, I came here to be an engineer, and I know it's tough, but I'm gonna try to figure this out. And then I think too, creating a network, right? So I mean, to this day, I have a friend who we were like yin and yang. So me and Stephanie, when we both decided, I think because she had started electrical engineering, right? And so she wasn't really a fan of EE. And so she ended up switching to industrial. So we ended up being a lot of the same classes. So a lot of times, if you've seen me, you've seen Steph, right? And so we would basically push each other, keep each other accountable. So he was basically assisted in me. And, you know, whenever you see me, you've seen her. Like we was in the library, we were studying. And so I think so creating that network of folks who were really kind of locked in on the engineering piece also helped. And it helped to keep me grounded on, hey, this is what I came to do. And this is what I want to go ahead and accomplish when I'm done.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to the youth that are just like you know, open up computers, that dream about being the same path as you? What advice would you give them?
The advice I would give to folks coming up is, I mean, keep pushing, right? Because we are going to face challenges, right? We're all going to have challenges. We're all going to have setbacks. But it's not about how many times you fall down. It's about how many times you get up, right? And so even if you think it's too hard or if it's too difficult, what's up, man? Go on. My son is here. So even if you think it's too hard to do, come here, John. He wants to be on camera.
Yes, come say hello.
Say hello.
Hey, Tanya, how are you?
But yeah, what I would tell the youth is, you know, I think you are your biggest critic, right? And so you want to go ahead, set your goals high. I think there's a saying that one of my favorite sayings that I also would use is, I never fail. I either win or I learn, right? And so basically using that, I think that was Nelson Mandela, I believe, said that. a scenario where always keep pushing, always keep striving, right? And if you set your mind to it, you definitely can achieve it.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that even though your friends, a lot of your peers were going to different directions, you had your mindset, you knew where you were heading, and you didn't allow that to kind of deviate you to a different direction. But you had your mindset where you knew where you were heading. And I love that because you were determined to become an engineer. But sometimes, when friends start going to different directions, for some people that can be like, a downbreaker, like, oh, I don't want to be here by myself. I envision us graduating together, whatever it is, right? So knowing exactly where you're heading and what you want is very important at that point.
Right.
Thank you so much, Vincent, to share with us by sharing your career path and sharing what you do and the advices that you have given to everyone. This has been amazing. And thank you for Zion too, coming saying hello to us. That was awesome. So thank you again, everyone. Make sure you tune in on YouTube to see the full video of STEM Heroes book launch. Thanks again, and I see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Take care.